Digital Culture Nation, how are you? Hils Walton here. Welcome back to the Digital Culture YouTube show and podcast. So remember, this show is all about the massive shift we are seeing as technology is truly changing the way we behave, make decisions, communicate, and interact. And for everyone listening to the podcast on Spotify, feel free to drop a question or any comments in the Q&A function in Spotify down below. Or you can tweet me at Hils Walton or leave me a comment on LinkedIn and Facebook. I really do read all of my comments. So and even if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to chuck one in there. Also hit the subscribe button on YouTube so you can watch future episodes and get notified of when they drop. So I'm excited about today's episode as we're going to double click into a very creative and strategic brain. On the show today with me, I have the amazing Summer Collins, who is Head of Data and Growth Capability at OneNZ, so formerly Vodafone New Zealand. And with what feels like an AI revolution upon us, I thought who better to get on the show than someone in the thick of it, an AI leader, someone who really is delivering impactful solutions to help enhance that customer experience and also drive commercial success. So I'm going to let Summer explain a bit of her background in detail before we poke and prod into some of the curiosities that I have. But she really does have some diverse experience to bring to this conversation, which I'm excited about. So that's across digital, from marketing technology through to data, and then also customer areas as well. So a really good perspective there. And with AI being such a hot topic, as businesses are really getting to grips with this tipping point technology, we talk about it as like the steam train, the computer, the internet. It really is one of those game-changing technologies. It's awesome to have someone on the show who is working in this area. So a huge welcome to Summer Collins, the Head of Data and Growth Capability at OneNZ. Summer, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thanks for being here. So as I said, it would be great just to give a little bit of context to the listeners, a bit about you, your background, just to set the scene a bit, and in particular, how you got into the exciting field of data and AI.
Yeah, it's a great question. And reflecting on it, I've kind of been in and out of data, either in analytical capacity, transformation or digital roles, and also in actually now data infrastructure and all the way end to end for about 20 years. So my career has I started as a data analyst, and so held a various bunch of different roles in New Zealand, Vodafone originally, in market research, and embarked on a bunch of different transformation programs through banking, telco, airline, that really kind of married the combination of customer experience and data together. And that's the area that I love. So not surprisingly, as the AI revolution has kind of come to bear and has been probably the most exciting few months I think a bunch of us have had in this industry, it's just natural. It's that combination of data, computing and customer experience that really brings that magic that you're seeing with some of the amazing launches of generative AI technologies that is in the news every single day.
Absolutely. I joined Microsoft in December, and then I think the announcements were coming pretty thick and fast in January, and literally some of the information is changing weekly. So there's a whole lot that just even a Microsoft employee versus, other people working in this field are just trying to really keep up with what's happening, and it's so exciting. And I know that you are doing a really good job of keeping up, actually, because while you've got your BCom degree and you've studied that, you've gone back to university this year. So do you want to tell us a bit about what you're doing with your executive diploma in AI from Oxford University, no less?
Yes, it's pretty life-changing, actually. I have gone back to study. It has been an incredible journey. I mean, people do talk about Oxford being life-changing, and it seriously has. So I'm completing an executive diploma in AI for business. So it is very much around understanding exactly what AI is, machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, reinforcement learning, kind of demystifies a whole lot of the different tech that you're seeing out there, and then brings it back to economics and corporate strategy in terms of how to apply AI in your business context. So it's been absolutely phenomenal, and I head back for module 2 on Sunday this week as well.
Exciting. Back over to the UK. And so, I mean, AI is interesting because it does have quite a long history. Like it started way back in the 1950s, 1960s. So it's not a new subject, but it certainly has really hit the public consciousness, I think, in 2023 in particular, which is really fascinating. In terms of your degree, what's the part of it you're enjoying the most just at present?
Yeah, at the moment, I think the biggest thing is the cohort. The cohort is from 32 different countries, a bunch, probably 20 plus different industries. We all come from different walks of life, very, very diverse, and that is one thing that Oxford SAID does really, really well. And just hearing the use cases and the application of AI in various forms that the teams have actually been trialing. You're absolutely right in terms of this. The AI revolution has been around since the 50s, and we have made huge advances even before the launch of OpenAI's ChatGPT. I think the interesting thing is the fact that the UX in ChatGPT, and I think a bunch of people have been talking about this recently, this isn't my idea, but the UX has really democratized it and made it accessible for everybody to improve their own personal productivity, which is kind of just absolutely blown up. But what we're also focusing on at Oxford and understanding the typical applications of AI, which are machine learning, data science models, predictive models, and how prediction can actually transform your business if you understand the problems that prediction can solve.
Wow. I'm just going to touch on your UX point because one of my colleagues, Matt Bird, sort of has talked about this to me in the same way, that actually he sees this, 2023 kind of change in technology as a UX change. AI has already always been there. It's just like you say, the UX is just suddenly one that people engage with, no matter who they are. So it's kind of fascinating. It's almost like not a revolution, but an evolution. But yeah, it's just a change in UX, sort of nothing to be too scared about from a technology perspective.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is just the fact that it can be adopted so easily. So I use it every day in my daily life in terms of GPT-4, in terms of a whole bunch of different kind of applications that can just speed up the time it takes to pull together a presentation, the time it takes to write a speech, and the time it takes to interrogate certain things. Now, what we're very keen on doing is making sure that that's really secure. What we're keen to talk to Microsoft about, making sure that we keep all of our data and privacy really, really safe from a company perspective.
In terms of using it in your everyday life, have you had any? Have you started using it with any children? Have you introduced any children to this particular technology? I'm totally off piece with my question here, but I did have this experience with my son recently. I haven't. I've held back from doing it, but I did just recently show my oldest son the tool, and yeah, it was kind of interesting. I think it's a tool that you sort of want to supervise with your children, because like any kind of app, things like that, you want to make sure it's giving age-related content. But in my head, I sort of compare it a little bit to the calculator. At schools when calculators came out and the school was like, oh no, they're going to forget how to do maths. And then there were some subjects at school doing maths where you weren't allowed to use a calculator because you had to learn the process. And then other times when you could use the calculator. But you only could make sense of what the calculator spat out at you if you sort of knew the process and how to critique the information. Is there any particular way you're thinking about that in terms of ChatGPT and children?
It is a good point. I think that you've raised a whole bunch of opportunities and also risks and what you've just said there. I think a lot of people are talking about it as being an amazing education tool, absolutely incredible in terms of the patience that it's going to have in explaining concepts. I often use it, explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. It does work. And then you can try it again and you can say, can you give me another analogy? So trying it and playing with it just does get you to understand concepts far, far faster than you would if you were reading textbooks or having it explained to you in one particular way. So I think the opportunity for it to be used in education is significant. I myself haven't put my kids in front of it yet. I am still trying to assess the risks, the opportunities, and overall, I do feel like we need strong rules around and parental guidance around how to use these tools in an age-appropriate way, as you mentioned. I wouldn't like to just give them to my kids and kind of go free rein, learn about everything. But as you say, just like the calculator, just like we have with Google, our brains adapt to these new tools, and we will adapt with generative AI as well.
That's an awesome point there, the adaptation point. Okay, so you're at university, you're studying more about AI. I do love a leader that's not afraid to keep learning, because it's, we can't know everything, which is perfect. And then obviously you can bring all that back to your team. So I want to talk now just about leading AI teams. So, you've been in digital roles, you've been in data for the last sort of 20 years. And then specifically in those data and AI roles more recently over the last few years. So in terms of that, in terms of AI being a tipping point technology, what's it been like leading a team during this time with data and AI just going crazy?
It's pretty awesome, I have to say. We're never bored. I've absolutely loved it. I am, and you've already pointed it out, I am a lifelong learner. I do love leaning into understanding new technologies and how people adapt to those new technologies. The one thing that I've been really, really impressed with is how my team have adapted and adopted these new technologies. They're coming to me every day with, what if we did this, or how about we try this? And to me, that makes it really, really fun, where I'm not having to come up with these ideas. We're actually just providing an environment where we're making sure that it's easy for them to do that, to try and experiment with the right guardrails. And the team have just adapted absolutely phenomenally well. So I have to admit, although it's been an exhausting time the last few months, keeping up with the news every day, it's been absolutely so much fun.
Talk about having to work in an agile way, right? You actually don't know what the end solution is, or you might know where you're kind of heading, but you're not sure exactly how you're going to get there. And so what are some of the challenges or opportunities that your team is thinking about?
Yeah, so I think one of the things is where to start and what to go after first. So we're spending a bit of time doing that, but often don't know until you get in and try something and figure it out. So experimentation is really important, having a culture of experimentation, and then measuring everything we do. So actually setting out with some goals and what we think might happen, and then being able to actually go back and say, did that happen or did it not? Because this area is so emergent, a lot of that is unknown, and we'll only figure that out after we experiment and lean in and actually understand whether that did change the dial and is worth changing processes to use, or maybe we need to move on to something else.
And in terms of your team and the way they're working, are they working sort of with a number of different teams across the business? Or are they, at the moment, they're in that learning phase themselves? Or how's that working? Because it's an enterprise function.
We are trying to lean in across the business as much as we can. So what we're not trying to do is stretch ourselves too thin. So choose the areas that we think, have the opportunities or want to lean in on this, and kind of double down on those. So that's the approach at the moment.
And in terms of being in the telco business, as well as the IT and digital space generally that you're in, but just like other industries, telco is looking at how they can utilize AI into their business models. How is your organisation approaching the new tech and what it means for the telco industry?
I think it's a great opportunity to reshape what are legacy processes that are relatively disconnected. It's giving us an opportunity to understand where prediction can actually help us make better decisions, and whether or not that is also helped through automation or whether it is just predictions that end up with a person being able to be more informed to make a better decision. I think both of those cases exist for us, but it's a really great opportunity to have a look at that end to end and understand what some reimagined processes could look like if they were AI enabled.
You're right, because some things you might use generative AI for, so the chat GPT style of things, and then other things that might just be the usual kind of machine learning and things which come to bear. Have you found that the generative AI has sort of accelerated the use of maybe machine learning or ideas for the use of machine learning in a way that it didn't before, perhaps wasn't there before?
Absolutely. As people have lent into the excitement that generative AI has been able to deliver, I think people have had more curiosity in understanding machine learning than ever before. It used to be the realm of the data scientists and really highly technical people that often have doctorates. Amazing bunch of people, but this has really democratized it in a way that the everyday person can kind of go, oh, well, how does that work? And what we are focused on here is trying to demystify that and make that understood, leaning in and being able to understand and do some online courses on how AI works, what is machine learning, and how does that differ from deep learning in terms of what you're seeing with generative AI. The fact that generative AI has generated that interest, I think, is an absolutely fantastic thing for the more kind of prevalent cases of predictive models in ML.
Absolutely. And if we think about, just even in terms of digital culture, like that impact that technology and the internet is really having on our kind of everyday lives, particularly now, like what do you think having a digital culture means in an organization at this time?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think we are still evolving as we understand these tools, as I mentioned before. And I think I heard this at Oxford. One of the professors said the tools will shape us as much as we shape the tools. So leaning into this culture and having curiosity to both understand how it works and then how to apply it, I think is key to that culture. Knowing that we might be wrong with what we think. So when we start off putting the guardrails around that to kind of go, it's okay to be wrong. Actually, it's good to be wrong. We're learning something, as long as we're learning something quickly and getting into that quick experimentation, move on or scale is the culture that we're really trying to adapt to here, which I think is really exciting. It's really empowering to work with teams that want to work like that, and having that growth mindset, that real kind of, I want to learn, I want to understand new things, I want to keep improving, is a massive component of the culture that we're trying to build here.
Absolutely, and so important just in terms of the number of places we can go for knowledge and information at the moment. I think even I think of the podcasts I'm listening to at the moment, they're all like AI focused. I'm just trying to soak up as much information as I can while I'm doing other tasks. So a question that I quite like to ask my guests is, because it can be a bit telling, but I'm very interested in, what are the main apps on your phone at the moment? What are the main ones? What are your go-tos?
My go-to apps. Good question. Let me just double check what I've got here. It's definitely Countdown, I have to admit, as a busy working as a busy working mum, my Countdown order is quite important to me, and the fact that they actually do deliver, and I think they've got some pretty advanced uses for AI in their products.
Yeah, I think so. They tend to know me pretty well and what to suggest.
Yeah, totally. I have to say, Teams is in there. And as I'm doing a lot of learning at the moment, I'm starting to learn the basics of linear regression that I haven't learned in 20 years since I was at university, which is the basic markers of what machine learning is. I've got YouTube on there as well as Spotify.
I was wondering what the app was going to be for linear
regression.
I was like, This could be an interesting app for YouTube.
No, it's phenomenal actually, and it's it's come a long way since I was at university. There's some really interesting tutorials that you can get on YouTube that actually are endorsed by Oxford. So I'm doing my pre-reading this week, so I've got YouTube on there as one of my.
Yes, make sure you done all your study before you head over. And is there anything you're looking forward to at the moment? What's kind of coming up for you? Or maybe it's the UK trip.
Oh yeah, but I think I don't know. This is just such an exciting time to be in data and AI, and what is going to happen next? How are people going to be showing up in terms of using this? I'm following a guy at the moment who started a company with ChatGPT being the CEO, with him only advising it 1 hour a day, and he's managed to get $100,000 of VC funding through this approach. He's using a drop shipping model. It's embroidered t-shirts.
Wow.
Actually, I should have worn it today. But the curiosity, the growth that this is going to deliver in terms of people being able to do more. If you don't know how to code, if you're not creative, if you're not as analytical, it suddenly opens up all of these pathways to do all of these things that potentially you would have had to employ others or have a lot of funding to be able to do. So I just can't wait to see what happens over the next little while. And I'm really excited to see the good side of AI, because there is going to be a flip side. We've all heard the news in terms of the risks, and I don't shy away from those. I think they are real, but I also think there's going to be a huge amount of exciting developments and good that's going to come up off the back of this technology being able to be used by everyone.
Yeah, it's in recent conversations I've had, a couple. So one looking at the HR lens over ChatGPT, which was the previous episode, and we're talking about what organizations might look like in the future, even as HR processes can speed up, like mergers and acquisitions and putting people in the right roles, and how fast change can happen organizationally in that respect. And then you mentioned low code, and I was speaking to a group of accountants this week and sort of showing them some of the Excel Copilot demos, and the fact that, it blew their mind, thinking, you won't actually have to know any spreadsheet formulas anymore or how to make a pivot table. You'll actually just ask it and inquire with the software to do that for you. But the key thing is that inquiring mind, isn't it? That's the skill that everyone really needs to learn, and which, having work experience can help you be more inquiring, because you've had more experience with more things to know kind of where to look next. I don't think we're going to lose graduate roles. I think that, everyone will be brought up a few notches with the new technology. So yeah,
I completely agree. On balance, I'm feeling extremely positive. I don't think we can ignore the risks that we've got. But if I had advice for people kind of feeling fearful, it would be give it a go. Lean in, like you say, be curious and try this, because it can open up all these new avenues once you get the prompts right or the usage right, that can really augment your own ability to do a whole lot of tasks that would have taken you hours in the past.
And sort of finishing up, is there any advice you'd give to someone looking to get into data and AI, whether that's career change or maybe there's some early career people? What do they kind of need to know about getting into your profession just now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think, a lot of it does come down to having some type of data background often is helpful, but it's not always necessary. But that's often quite an easy path in, is to start as an analyst and move up into becoming a scientist, or even a data engineer. Those are roles, and I don't know where we're going within the future, but they are so valuable today. And then also, I think in terms of just that curious mindset, trying something getting involved in a project that potentially there might be an application for AI and suggesting it. That's what people are looking for, is people to help lean in and understand whether or not this is going to enhance people and help people do their job more effectively. So I'd just say kind of give it a go, get involved wherever you can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Summer. This has been really interesting. Is there any final words you want to leave the listeners with?
I just have to say there's never been a better time to be alive and to have a look into the future in terms of what we can be doing. This is a revolution, and I'm really excited, and I hope you guys are too. So thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on the show. Can't wait to speak to you when you get back from your amazing trip and learning all those things with Oxford Uni around AI. Have an amazing day, and we'll chat to you later. Thanks so much.